what do you think should be their first step?
Their first step should be choosing something that they're really passionate about, not something that you think is, popular or will get you some fame, or not choosing an issue that you think is just like popular for the time, because then what happens when it's not popular anymore and you start this whole organization and you don't even like it and now you're just stuck. And then yeah, it'll like choosing something that you're really passionate about is so important, especially like because adults like tell me all the time, go into a field that you're really passionate about, because it's going to be, like hell doing something that every day that you like absolutely don't enjoy, like, and you're stuck. Like it's the worst thing ever. So if you're doing something that you really enjoy and actually are passionate about, like, work won't even feel like work. It'll feel like a hobby, like you're just having fun. I would say that, and then once you found something that you're actually passionate about, starting off small. You don't have to start off with a huge organization like I did. You don't have to, you know, make such a big step at first. You can start with volunteer work and seeing what you don't like in that business volunteer work that you would do differently in your organization. You don't have to start off big. You can start off small.
Yeah. Your first point was really interesting. I guess I've never actually thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes lots of people don't have a choice. Sometimes, sometimes you just gotta, suck it up and live with not doing something that you love for the time being. And you never know what can happen in the future. You might be in a position where you can start doing something that you love. But I would say when you're first looking at it, like try to do something that you love. Yeah.
What if at just 8 years old, you started something that would turn into a global movement? Our guest today, Jahkil Jackson, is an 18-year-old youth philanthropist, student athlete, and founder of Project I Am, a nonprofit that began with a single act of service and has since grown to impact hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. In this episode, we're going to break down how Jahkil turned an idea into reality, organized thousands of youth volunteers, partnered with major brands, and kept the mission growing year after year. If you've ever wondered how to start young, lead with purpose, and turn passion into reality, stay with us. This conversation is for you. Hello, Jahkil. Thank you so much for being on the Will and Way podcast with me this morning.
No problem.
So before we start, can you please give me and the audience a quick introduction about yourself?
Yes. My name is Jahkil Jackson. I am 18 years old, and I started a nonprofit organization called Project I Am at the age of 8 years old to build awareness of homelessness. And it kind of just turned into something that I never could imagine. And it's given me the opportunity to do so many things over these past few years. The organization is about to reach 10 years in February, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I'm a social entrepreneur. I also teach social entrepreneurship in schools. I've just become a lot of different things, like an author and more out of this whole organization that I've made.
That is really great. We don't realize when one thing can turn into something so huge and have such a huge impact on our lives. So let's talk a little bit more about Project I Am. When was that moment when you decided, I want to start a nonprofit organization and it's going to be about this?
I would say at the age of 5 years old, I had the experience where I saw the homeless for the first time, and it was my first time seeing them. And at that age, I thought that everybody had homes, so I was kind of shocked by it. So I went home and I asked my parents if we can give them all houses. Obviously, we couldn't do that. So we sat down and we talked about the different things that we have on a daily basis that they don't have. We thought about blessing bags. And from there, when I was 8 years old, that's when we did our first packing party. And I wanted to keep doing it. And my parents realized we can't, just keep doing packing parties out of our pocket. So we had to create something to back it. And that's when the idea of actually creating a business.
Wow, that's a really powerful. So that moment at 8 years old, when you first started that party, how did that feel?
It felt really good, doing that packing party and just seeing not only how happy I was to do it, but how happy my friends were that I brought along with me were to do it. It inspired me to want to, that became kind of the whole point of the organization was getting other young people involved. And once I saw that my friends having fun, I knew that I could do it. So it was a really impactful moment and a really cool time to make those bags.
So, when you started that nonprofit, why did you decide to name it Project IM?
Actually, the organization was named I Am Naeem at first. And Naeem is my middle name, which means to give without receiving back. So I always felt like it was kind of in me to want to give back. Along the way, we saw more young people started getting involved in their communities and creating organizations. So we started to call it Project I Am so that you can kind of put your name there, like Project I Am David, Project I Am Jaden, that type of thing. So
Wow.
that's when change happened. But at first it was called I Am Naeem.
Wow, that's really cool story. So at 8 years old, why did you want other young kids to get involved? Why did you not want to just do it yourself?
Well, I knew that at a young age that young people are the future leaders, and I had a feeling that it's better to start now and get involved in the community now and be at those tables now so that we're better prepared when we're adults. That's why I always preach when I'm public speaking or even to young people that we have to start now, start, developing these ideas now so that we can be better off in the future. So that was always my whole idea and why I thought it's so important for young people to get involved.
That's a really inspiring motive. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the blessing bags? Can you tell the audience exactly what it is?
So a blessing bag is a toiletry bag, it's full of daily essentials like soap, tissue, socks, hand sanitizer, wipes, conditioner, lotion, just the daily essentials that we can sometimes take for granted that they don't have.
Why did you decide to go with the essentials, as you said, instead of the traditional route like food?
That's a great question. When I was developing ideas to do something between 5 and 8, we were going back and forth between food and toiletry items. But a lot of people did food, and I wanted to be different. And I knew that food doesn't last very long. The toiletry items probably have a little bit more sustainability. So I feel like that was a better idea, and I'm glad I chose that.
So, through Project IM, have you done any more events or other initiatives?
So with the organization, the main thing that we give to people is still the blessing bags. But I've done a lot of different events, whether it was doing back to school drives with book bags full of school supplies. I've done a lot of back to school drives every year, and also have been trying to get involved in tiny homes. That's one of my goals for the next few years, which I feel like can really lead to demolishing homelessness. It's basically just a tiny house for those in need. And it's a place where they can stay, like shelters. They kick you out after a certain amount of time, and a tiny home is yours, somewhere you can stay until you get back on your feet. And they're really nice. Besides that, just the social entrepreneurship classes that I've done and teaching in schools, I've done a lot of different programs been able to do a lot of different programs with the organization.
So, now coming this far, what would you say your overall Project IM's mission really is?
I would say the overall mission has always been to demolish homelessness, and that's a huge goal. But I know that with all the young people in the world, and with us coming together and working in our communities, we can really work towards demolishing homelessness. I know it's possible.
That's amazing goal. Through Project I saw that you did two other initiatives, like Project IM Next Up. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so Project I Am Next Up is also one of the goals, apart in terms of expanding the organization. It's basically because I'm in school now and I don't have as much time as I used to have for the organization. So the key will be expanding the organization. I've given bags out all across the world, but actually having Project I Am stationed in other cities and in other countries is the next goal. And we already have Spain, Canada, is in the UK. It's definitely expanding, and I'm really excited about this whole project. And we have places here in the United States as well. But yeah, just hopefully having branches of Project I Am all over the place. I've ran by other young people.
That's really cool. How do you manage those different branches of Project IM from afar?
Well, it takes a team, especially me being here focused on basketball and school. It's definitely difficult. So my parents are and my grandma are doing an amazing job. My team is very hardworking and consistent. So they make sure to stay on top of it. The branches that we have, they're all very reliable people. It's not something where we need to, check up on them and babysit them. Like they they're doing their own little. It's a lot of good communication that goes on, and we make sure to choose reliable people for the branches.
So, your other initiative, Don't Wait to Be Great, what is that all about?
The "Don't wait to be great" is my motto. It means that us as young people don't have to wait until we're adults to be change agents or start our own business because we can do it right now. And I actually named my second book after that.
Let's talk more about your books. How many books have you written, and when did you decide to get into writing?
3. I've written 3 now. Um, I never really even thought I was gonna become an author. That wasn't ever a goal for me, but, it kinda came out of necessity, I would say, and in the year 2020, it was during COVID, and right before we went into quarantine, I was going through a rough time in school. It was through 6th and 7th grade. It was a bunch of bullying going on, and it was a rough time for me. So when quarantine hit, it was like perfect timing for my like mental health. And I got to sit down and really reflect on things that happened, and my parents did a great job at helping me through that tough time. After I was good, I realized there was so many other young people going through the same thing. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to get my thoughts out. And I felt like a book was one of the best ways I can do that while inspiring others. So that's when the first children's book was made. And after that, I just made another one and then made another one for graduation this year. The last book I made was called Built Different, and it's to help with more so, like mental health with young people my age, and because I know the pressures of chasing your dreams, especially at this young age while you're in school. So those are the 3 books. Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, necessity is the mother invention. So that's your books show that.
Yeah.
You talked about how the pressure at such a young age when you start a nonprofit. Have you ever felt pressured that now you've done so much and you have to keep going, otherwise it'll feel like you failed?
I would say I've gotten that feeling, especially when I made this transition, leaving home and going to school. It was a time where I felt like, how is this going to work? But then again, my village, my parents and my grandmother made sure they just do a lot of reassurance for me. Whenever I'm feeling, how things are going, they make sure to get me back on track. But yeah, there has been moments like that.
So how did you get over those moments? How did you get better?
I would say just reassuring myself and having self-confidence as well. Building self-confidence is a major point, and especially like I said when I was going through quarantine, that was one of the major things. So whenever I'm just doubting myself or doubting anything, just doing affirmations really helps. That's something that my parents taught me. It's something that I incorporated in my first book for young people. Just that reassurance and having self-confidence is really important.
You said that you got bullied. I didn't realize that. How did you get through that, and how did it shine through in your books?
I would say, other than my parents, and the affirmations, that was the major thing that helped. But how it shot through in the book, um, just everything about the book really just screamed positivity, and it is a representation of everything that I went through, and how I overcame it. Literally was in the book. The book it starts off with a sad story, and then it works its way up to, me being, this type of figure, and me looking down on the bullies, that type of thing. And then there's the affirmations at the end of the book. So it's really is just like the story that I went through, and it's a really colorful children's book. So it's a really cool project that I worked on.
What is that book called?
The first book is called I Am.
Thanks. Since so many kids face bullying today, what do you think is the most effective way young people can respond to bullying and create a safer, more supportive environment around?
I would say not jumping to self-harm, not jumping to negative thoughts about yourself. I would say the first thing will have to be finding somebody that you trust to talk to, even if you think you don't have somebody that you can talk to. You definitely have. In schools, there's people set out for those type of things now. Where our parents back in the day, they didn't have that type of thing. They didn't have people in schools dedicated to mental health. So finding somebody to talk to, and also a big thing is self-worth. That's something that you gain when you're going through the healing process. I would say, self-worth and reassurance, knowing who you are and doing affirmations is the biggest thing for me. That's something that helped me throughout my journey. So, just stepping back, just reflecting on everything that's going on, and then affirmations.
Yeah, talk to your mentors, class teachers, and counselors.
Yeah.
That's really good. You have gotten so many awards and recognition, even from President Barack Obama himself. How did that moment feel?
That was surreal. It was a dream come true. Never would I thought I would have met Barack Obama, but it was actually a surprise. In 2017, he named me one of 2017's most influential people, and we kept in touch with the Obama Foundation after that, and they invited us to a reception. It was like a few months later, and it was just a bunch of networking. I was the only kid in the room, and I ended up networking for like an hour, and I was getting tired. My mom was ready to go, and a guy came out and said, "You guys are now going to meet Barack Obama." So I started jumping up and down, getting super excited, like shaking my mom, and I told her I was going to be the first in line, which I was. And when I got in line, I walked up to him and shook his hand, and he no, the lady next to him started saying like who I am, and he interrupted her and said, "I know who this young man is. I was tweeting about him." So to know that he remembers me from a few months back, and just being able to have a conversation with him about my future goals, and it was just a really cool moment.
Wow, that is amazing. So, what about the other awards that you've gotten? Which one was the most meaningful to you?
I would say the CNN Hero Award. When
Mhm.
I was younger, I had no idea what it was. I'll be honest. I Because it's more of a thing that adults know more about. But after like going through a few years and realizing the impact of the award and the people that get it, I think that was one of my biggest awards. It came in my favorite color too, so that I might be biased just because it was royal blue, but it was like a rectangle royal blue flag. It's really cool.
So, when you get all of these awards, how does each one make you feel that wow, I'm really doing something?
Yeah, I think it's just a part of that reassurance too. Just every time I get an award, I feel like what I'm doing matters, and I feel like it's just more of a reason to keep going because it shows that I'm doing something right. Y- Yeah, it's all like from my first award when I was 8 years old. It just showed me that I'm doing the right things, and I this is also to get the word out about what I'm doing and make this project even bigger.
Okay. So you've done other projects aside from Project I Am, like the Pillow Initiative. Why did you start your custom pillow line?
Yeah, so with the organization, I started doing merchandise like shirts, jackets, hats, and then the power pillows came. It's basically just like kind of what I have on my book with the affirmations. It's a I am in the middle of the pillow, and then a bunch of positive words around it. So I started doing that like maybe at 9 years old. And one day when I was doing a packing party at Crate and Barrel, which headquarters is in Chicago. We were just doing a packing party there it was some type of event, and the CEO was there. So it just took a chance just cause why not? And I pitched my pillow line to her, and she was like in awe of it. She was like amazed by what I was doing, and she wanted all to do with the pillows. She wanted to immediately start working with me, and it just turned into having my pillows in their stores and creating a different type of custom pillow with them. So it was really cool. You never know. Yeah.
You don't really hear stories like this, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned you do other merchandise. What kind of merchandise, and like why is that important to Project I Am?
I do hats, shirts, different things that can raise money for the organization. That's the whole point of the merchandise. When I was younger, it was to raise, money for the organizations besides the donations that we will get, because it's a nonprofit, and we feel off of donations and grants, things like that.
I completely understand because I have an organization myself and you need the money to do bigger things. So I understand.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the milestones of Project I Am. What was like the first big milestone where you thought this is going great?
I would say when we made the jump, my first year, I had a goal of doing 1,000 bags, I think.
Mhm.
I think we went over to 5,000.
Wow.
Think I'm trying to remember. We made a few different like weird jumps because my mind was just spinning and I was just like thinking of the most random numbers to do every year. And I think one year we made a jump from like around 5,000 or something. The next year we did like 12,000. Say when we made that big jump, that's when I knew things were going well and we can do many more, because then we started just going up to 15,000, then to 20,000. And yeah, it's become pretty big now.
What's your biggest milestone so far that you feel really good about?
I would say it's when I reached 200,000 bags. Yeah,
That's a whole lot.
yeah.
What are some of the donations and grants that have helped Project I Am through its journey?
We gotten a lot of different donations, especially from brands that I've worked with. Those have been the coolest, I would say, whether it was Nike, or working with um working with Gap, Crate and Barrel as well. That's probably one of the biggest ones. Working with Heart and Alliance, just different organizations in Chicago too, has been pretty cool. I would say Nike was probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you choose who to partnership with?
Well, actually, when I was growing up, a lot of the stuff that I did, a lot of the brands that I worked with reached out to me. I never reached out to a brand to do a campaign. It was just the like the opportunity, and they emailed us, and like working with like Marvel, for example. One day I was in the car and my mom told me that Marvel would just email me. No, that's the same thing that happened with Nike too. I just got in the car after school and they told me that Nike emailed me, and I was like, I thought they were joking. I didn't believe them until they showed me the email. So I was just blessed to have those different opportunities.
Do you still continue all of these projects or initiatives still? Like, do you continue Don't Wait to Be Great or the Blessing Bags or these partnerships?
But yeah, I still continue, the blessing bags, the the Don't Wait to Be Great. I'm actually supposed to start teaching again in schools while I'm here. I'm continuing this to the best of my ability while I'm out here in school.
Let's talk more about that. How you said you continue teaching schools, you want to. So, when did this start that you wanted to start going into schools and helping children, teaching them about social entrepreneurship?
Think it started my sophomore year, I wanna say. My sophomore year in high school. I started public speaking when I was 9 years old. So, speaking to a lot of schools, and then we came up with the idea of doing social entrepreneurship classes and me actually becoming a teacher in schools. And we thought, like, why not pitch these ideas to the schools that I've already spoke at, And a lot of them said yes, and I just started working in schools during my lunch period, doing Zoom calls with the schools and the classes. I'll go in person and see them have like a pizza party and do like the last class usually is like this big, everybody does their presentations for their businesses that they created
Hmm.
for the social entrepreneurship. And there's usually like a top three, and each person gets a prize to put towards making that nonprofit an actual organization. But it's really cool. We have pizza, then we play basketball, that type of thing.
When you
Yeah.
do those talks, what do you teach the kids that you think is really important?
Social entrepreneurship and just also following your dreams and staying the course, and trusting the process, I would say, is an important one, because a lot of young people, especially me, we want instant gratification, and don't always understand the value in waiting. I'm very impatient as a person, but then I have to remember, the things that I teach and being patient. Besides the social entrepreneurship, I teach, just values that they can use in everyday life as they grow up. Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to teach. That's what makes it so good for me. Like whether I'm public speaking or teaching the class, a lot of the kids tend to, draw towards me because I'm just like them. I'm really 70 years old in the head still, so I'm able to, play basketball with them. I'm able to joke around the same way that they joke around. I have the same sense of humor as them, kind of. So yeah, it's pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
What is one thing Project I Am has taught you that school generally doesn't teach?
I would honestly have to say, just because of the experiences that I went through, treat people how you want to be treated. I didn't learn that from school. I learned that through Project I Am. That's a major thing that Project I Am has taught me.
What is a big challenge that hit you through Project I Am, and how did you come over it?
Yeah, so since we're a nonprofit, we fill off with donations. Of course, when when COVID happened, it was a drought in donations, and we weren't getting as many because people, weren't as free as spending their money during COVID because they didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. So it was probably the roughest time for the organization, not getting the usual donations that we would, not knowing what tomorrow was going to look like as well was scary. So that was probably the roughest time. But there were things like that's when we started doing things like grants, and getting involved in different grants and applying for them. We just found ways around every problem that we face. Just found different opportunities.
Problem solving, that's
Yeah,
another really good skill that it's taught, right?
yeah, yeah.
So now if someone's listening and if they wanted to get involved with you, how should they? What is the first step they should take?
You can go to my website, which is weareprojectiam.com. Also, my other website is just my name, jahkil.com, JAHKIL.com. Also, my Instagram has a lot of my information on different things that I'm doing, new events coming up. It's just my name, Jahkil Jackson. Those are all the ways that you can get in contact with me and find out more information about what we're doing, and different virtual events that are coming up.
And what if someone wanted to create an alliance with you and help start a Project I Am branch in their place?
Yep, that's a good question. Just going to the website and calling our number, and just talking to us about, the ideas that you have and how you want to get involved and how you want to partner. It's really as simple as that.
Thank you. And through Project I Am, all the experiences that you've had, what is one piece of advice that really stuck with you that you think others could really benefit from?
I would say put yourself in other people's shoes. That's another thing that was not, I wouldn't say taught to me, but I learned through Project I Am just naturally. And it's something that I've preached to multiple young people and adults as well. Because you never know what somebody's going through. Just putting yourself in somebody's shoes before you judge or make a joke, then you'll kind of think twice the next time and understand what other people are going through. Because you never know somebody's backstory either. You don't assuming is probably one of the biggest things that kills us when it comes to homelessness. A lot of times we just assume, that they did this, they did that, and it's their fault that they're there and all types of stuff. So, putting yourself in other people's shoes and not judging and not assuming.
Yeah, that's really important. Who is someone who has inspired you?
I would say it's three people that have inspired me. It would be my parents and then my grandmother. Growing up, before I started the organization, they are their own boss. My mom has an organization, my dad and my grandma work for themselves. So seeing that entrepreneurship growing up and seeing that really put me in the mindset of like I have to be my own boss. I have to start something. And when this homelessness thing came across, it was like a perfect alliance. So yeah, I would have to say them. They inspired me growing up.
If someone wanted to start their own organization or make their own impact on the world, what do you think should be their first step?
Their first step should be their first step should be choosing something that they're really passionate about, not something that you think is popular or will get you some fame, or not choosing an issue that you think is just like popular for the time. Cause then what happens when it's not popular anymore and you start this whole organization and you don't even like it and now you're just stuck. And then yeah, it'll like choosing something that you're really passionate about is so important, especially like because adults like tell me all the time, go into a field that you're really passionate about because it's going to be, like hell doing something that every day that you like absolutely don't enjoy, like, and you're stuck. Like it's the worst thing ever. If you're doing something that you really enjoy and actually are passionate about, like work won't even feel like work. It'll feel like a hobby, like you're just having fun. I would say that, and then once you found something that you're actually passionate about, starting off small. You don't have to start off with a huge organization like I did. You don't have to make such a big step at first. You can start with volunteer work and seeing what you don't like in that business volunteer work that you would do differently in your organization. You don't have to start off big. You can start off small. But I would say when you're first looking at it, like try to do something that you love. Yeah.
So, doing all of this, plus school, plus your hobbies, plus sports, everything, how do you balance everything and still make sure that you have some free time to yourself?
I would say I would give all that credit to my parents, actually. They do a great job at managing my schedule. I am not the greatest when it comes to time management. Just having my parents managing my schedule and making sure that everything is set up and like with schoolwork and making sure that nothing is like double booking and on top of each other. They did a great job growing up. And now that I'm here, I would say it's easier for me to kind of do that myself. Just having so much time for like my sport and send out small like periods where I can work on other things. It's kind of easier now. Maybe it's because I'm by myself and I don't have that much like going on that I used to at home.
Yeah, okay. So now let's talk about the future for Project I Am and yourself. In the next 5 to 10 years, do you still want to continue Project I Am or make it bigger?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely want to continue Project I Am. Even well, I was gonna say hopefully I don't even need to and homelessness is demolished, but actually I think even if there wasn't homelessness, I think I would still continue Project I Am just for the inspiration and the impact that it's made and just the different projects that we could get involved. There's so many other issues in the world. I think I would continue Project I Am for forever, for as long as I'm breathing. I think I want to be doing Project I Am.
A noble cause and a
Yeah.
noble goal. Where do you see Project I Am in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see us doing tiny homes, working towards actually demolishing homelessness and the different branches of Project I Am also getting involved in tiny homes. I see us doing many more blessing bags, of course, but also just having an impact on so many young people. We having branches, even more branches all across the world. That's the goal.
All right. Last but not least, let's go to our Will and Way rapid fire round. Are you ready? 1 minute.
Yep.
First answer that comes to your mind. What is the most unique thing you've put in a blessing bag?
Gloves. Gloves.
Favorite book you've ever read and why it stuck with you?
I'll have to say Malcolm X. I'm not finished with it, but I would say from what I've read so far, it has the most impact right now.
Favorite subject in school that surprises people?
It's not one that surprised people, but social studies.
Me too.
Yeah.
One word that perfectly describes Project I Am.
Impactful.
Your favorite note that you've gotten from a child,
Favorite note?
or like a favorite moment, an interaction.
Favorite note, I would say it was a young person that told after I was done public speaking that I made them want to get involved in their community.
Okay. A moment during a blessing bag distribution you'll never forget.
When a lady stayed behind and told us her life story and how she ended up where she is and did like a Donald Duck impression for us.
Celebrity or mentor you'd love to collaborate with for a youth project.
My favorite actor.
Okay. Go to basketball move or play that represents your style.
Go-to basketball move, I'll say a killer crossover. It's between the legs and then a crossover in front, but really fast.
Yeah. Someone you've met through Project I Am who inspired you most.
My little brother Harper, I met him through the things I do at Project I Am, and he inspires me every day just to be a better version of myself.
Favorite city you visited while doing Project I Am work?
LA is where I want to live when I'm older. So between LA and New York and Chicago, those are my three favorite cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Jahkil, for coming on the Will and Way podcast with me, and I really enjoyed our conversation today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, friends, for joining us today. If you loved today's conversation, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, your actions today can change the world tomorrow, because where there's a will, there's a way.